Hello and welcome to our presentation of Tunisia. We from Reves are here to discover this beautiful country with you and look at the business opportunities in Tunisia.
Here are the table of content we're going to discuss about and maybe have a question answered.
Here are some key facts about Tunisia. On the left side you can see the coat of arms of Tunisia, and on the right side you can see the flag. The national motto is liberty, order and justice, and you can see that in the coat of arms. The lion represents the order, the sheep represents the liberty, and the scale symbolizes the justice. The capital city of Tunisia is Tunis. Tunisia is populated around 11.5 million, and the treaty was signed on March 20th, 1956, that formally recognized Tunisia's independence. Political landscape. The president of Tunisia is Kais Saied, the prime minister is Hishmet Michichi. The constitutional framework of Tunisia declares a republic with its language being Arabic and religion being Islam. The president fills in the head of state and exercises executive power. The Tunisia is divided into 24 administrative regions. Every region is named by the name of the capital city and it's partitioned into various units. Political process in Tunisia. Emerged across as the biggest party in Tunisia after the 2011 Jasmine revolution since independence. Women in Tunisia has delighted in more outstanding balance under the law steady case. Tunisia has settled a democratic regime that continually works to set up a condition of rights and organization, yet the popularity-based progress came about the economy and the world of politics. The pacification of the political atmosphere and the political adjustment of the nation will require some investment. The state levels its foreign policy as a peace-loving country that supports and promotes tolerance, understanding, and solidarity.
Tunisia is a relatively small country in North Africa. Geographically speaking, they are very diverse. The difference can be seen when we are comparing the north and the south of Tunisia. The top part is green, and the middle region is semi-arid, and then the lower region is arid. They have a cold region where it snows, and mountains are very apparent. Also a very warm region down south, where it's hot and full of deserts. We can see here that the majority of the population are aged between 25 and 54 years old. This means that right now they have quite a lot of people that are the working class. However, there is a decline in fertility rate. So in a few years, there will be more older people who needs the support of younger generation. This is where the imbalances show. In the 1960s, the Tunisian government took steps to decrease population growth. They implemented the National Family Planning, where the fertility rate went from 7 to 2 per woman. Because of this imbalance, they are facing employment problems, and COVID has made this worse.
So I'll be talking about starting a business in Tunisia. One must be familiar or fluent in the two languages spoken, or at least one of them, being French and then the second one being Arabic. Arabic is the local language, however, and it would be seen as a respectful and appreciated by the locals. So for foreigners starting a business in Tunisia can already start at $500 or 1,000 Tunisian dinar. Tunisia is a member of the World Trade Organization since 1996, therefore it really benefits from all the laws and rules in place. Tunisia's rank from the World Bank Group 2020 is 19 out of 190 countries, so that's very strong. There are, however, some pitfalls, being that the state really owns a lot of companies or economies in Tunisia, being, for example, the financial sector and the pharmaceuticals. Then there are a lot of prohibitive customs and tax regimes. Also, there's a rapidly changing political and economical environment, and there's a big gender inequality in Tunisia, especially man versus woman on the workplace. And I'll be talking about company types. First of all, so there's a SARL or Société à Responsabilité Limitée or a private limited liability. It takes about 5 weeks to set up and around $12,000 in the first year. Then you have the Société Anonyme or limits the owner's personal liability for a company's actions. This is the longest in weeks of setting up, and it also takes the most capital, being $17,200 in the first year. Then you have branch office and representative office, and they both take 4 weeks to set up and have around 15,000 US dollars capital in the first year.
Cost of doing business in Tunisia. Corporate taxes are 25% in Tunisia, which has been lowered by 5% by the government. Foreign policy is pretty supportive of foreign investors, and labor is pretty cheap in Tunisia, $6 per day for an unskilled worker. Middle class workers or skilled workers would cost us around $40 to $50 per day. It's incredibly cheaper than Western Europe and America. $850 per square meter is the price for a piece of land in Tunisia that is cheaper in the industrial areas, which would be around $500. $750 is the construction price in Tunisia, all over Tunisia. Finding the right location to do business in Tunisia, there were 7 ports in Tunisia, and there were several ports in Tunis. Reves is the biggest, and it's based for businesses, not for touristic activities. It's a pretty accessible port for all workers. And there is already a lot of workforce present in Tunis around Reves, and it would be much easier for us to do business there. Export and import would be obviously easier around that area. It's less energy consuming, that would be less time consuming, less money consuming, less efforts, and less transport to be used in this area.
Now let's take a quick look at the tax overview. The corporate tax rate is 25% and the personal income tax rate is 35%, and the sales tax rate is 19%, which is increased with 1% from the last year. The social security tax rate consists of social security rates for companies and also for employees are 25.75%. And about the laws and regulations, Tunisian laws and regulations are based on the constitution, laws voted by parliament, ministerial decrees, orders, and it has also included the international conventions and treaties joined by Tunisia. The laws are based on the French and Islamic law. Tunisia has an independent justice and it treats all nationals and foreigners equally. The official language of the Tunisian justice is Arabic. And about the unemployment, according to the Statista.com, the unemployment rate in Tunisia is increasing in the last year. In 2019 it was 16.02%. Now in 2020 it increased 16.15%. And among the workers, unemployment rate is higher for women's graduates. And about employment, the numbers of employed persons are increasing, but not enough to keep up with the unemployment rate, which is higher than 16%. The biggest part of the employment goes to the service sector, which holds more than 50% of the total force, and after service follows the industry sector with more than 30%. And then we have agriculture with more than 10%.
Business sector invest in Tunisia. Since the 1970s, Tunisia has chosen an export-oriented and industrialization-oriented growth model sustained by investors-friendly legislation and supportive public spending in infrastructure and human resource. The critical European investors in Tunisia are France, Italy, and to a lesser degree, Germany. However, since the Eurozone crisis in 2008, the Southern European economic had downturn and has harmed the region. As Tunisia, third largest manufacturing sector after fabric and leather goods, agribusiness contributes 3% of nation GDP and 50% of all jobs. As a result of several investment ventures targeted to edible oil extraction, packaging, operation, and refrigerated food storage, investment in primary food processing. In any case, overall, the Tunisian economic benefits from some encouraging fundamental traits in a context where European economic are seeing humble expansion in consumption. Tunisian manufacturing industry is planning to fit by the cycle improvement and further diversification.
Moving on to the cross-cultural aspects, when comparing Tunisia, we try to compare Tunisia to Belgium being a Western country and then to the surrounding countries being Libya and Morocco. As we can see, Belgium clearly has a relatively close power distance to Tunisia, meaning that members of society accept a hierarchical order. Tunisia, with an individualism score of 40, scores relatively low compared to Belgium, although similar to surrounding countries, being Libya and Morocco. And then loyalty is therefore important in Tunisia and something to never forget when doing business. Tunisia is also a moderately feminine society when compared to all three countries, so compromising and negotiating are therefore key.
So the business etiquette in Tunisia is divided into different subjects because I want to be specific, so you make sure you understand. First off, we've got the fundamentals, which is don't talk about sensitive subjects such as religion or war. Relationships are also very important in Tunisia. Keep that in mind. So trust is a big factor in making business deals, and hierarchy is also very important in Tunisia, so make sure you always talk to the highest person in ranking. The first contact should not be made in the summer because it's too warm then. Also not during the Ramadan because it's sacred. Most of the time people speak French in Tunisia, so keep that in mind. For a foreigner, it is smart to be on time, so if you have a meeting at 4, you should be there at 4. For the local there, it is okay to come a little later, and it's also very common to run overtime in Tunisia. Then the greetings and titles. A handshake suffices if you're talking to someone from the same sex. If you talk to someone from the different sex, not suffices. You should always greet someone with sir or miss, depending on their function in the hierarchy. The gift policy in Tunisia is pretty basic. You can give basic food such as pastries, fruits, nuts, and so on. No alcohol because Muslims usually don't drink alcohol. The dress code during meetings is conservative and business casual, so that means a nice business dress or a good costume is, well, perfect actually. But don't wear t-shirts or ripped pants because that won't be appreciated. Then, concerning business cards, there are no formal rules, but they are usually exchanged in English and Arab or French and Arab. You will always give it to the person with the highest function. And then lastly, some general rules. Before having a meeting, it is pretty normal to have some small talk and get to know each other. Trust is also important, as mentioned before. You should always direct yourself to the highest ranked person in the meeting. Long negotiations are common in Tunisia, so keep that in mind. It takes a little longer than the Western world, but that's okay, just be patient. And it is also very common to have a business lunch to get to know each other before doing actual business.
To conclude, the embassies in our research were not really willing to help us gather first-hand data. This is probable and possible out of the possible strains and complications due to COVID-19. All in all, Tunisia is a great country to set up a business in, especially compared to the surrounding countries. Thank you very much for listening.